Hello and welcome to day 16 of the Not Alone Today Chronological Bible Reading Plan with Joseph and Anu. Today we'll be reading Genesis chapters 47 to 50 using the Contemporary English Version.
Genesis 47. Joseph took 5 of his brothers to the king and told him, "My father and my brothers have come from Canaan. They have brought their sheep, goats, cattle, and everything else they own to the region of Goshen."
Then he introduced his brothers to the king, who asked them, "What do you do for a living?"
"Sir, we are shepherds," was their answer. "Our families have always raised sheep, but in our country all the pastures are dried up, and our sheep have no grass to eat. So we, your servants, have come here. Please let us live in the region of Goshen."
The king said to Joseph, "It's good that your father and brothers have arrived. I will let them live anywhere they choose in the land of Egypt, but I suggest that they settle in Goshen, the best part of our land. I would also like for your finest shepherds to watch after my own sheep and goats."
Then Joseph brought his father Jacob and introduced him to the king. Jacob gave the king his blessing, and the king asked him, "How old are you?"
Jacob answered, "I have lived only 130 years, and I have had to move from place to place. My parents and my grandparents also have had to move from place to place, but they lived much longer, and their life was not as hard as mine." Then Jacob gave the king his blessing once again and left. Joseph obeyed the king's order and gave his father and brother some of the best land in Egypt, near the city of the Ramesses. Joseph also provided food for their families.
The famine was bad everywhere in Egypt and Canaan, and the people were suffering terribly. So Joseph sold them the grain that had been stored up, and he put the money in the king's treasury. But when everyone had run out of money, the Egyptians came to Joseph and demanded, "Give us more grain. If you don't, we'll soon be dead because our money is all gone."
"If you don't have any money," Joseph answered, "give me your animals and I'll let you have some grain." From then on, they brought him their horses and donkeys and their sheep and goats in exchange for grain.
Within a year, Joseph had collected every animal in Egypt. Then the people came to him and said, "Sir, there is no way we can hide the truth from you. We are broke and we don't have any more animals. We have nothing left except ourselves and our land. Don't let us starve and our land be ruined. If you give us grain to eat and seed to plant, we'll sell ourselves and our land to the king. We'll become his slaves."
The famine became so severe that Joseph finally bought every piece of land in Egypt for the king and made everyone the king's slaves, except the priests. The king gave the priests a regular food allowance, so they did not have to sell their land. Then Joseph said to the people, "You and your land now belong to the king. I'm giving you seeds to plant, but 1/5 of your crops must go to the king. You can keep the rest as seed or as food for your families."
"Sir, you have saved our lives," they answered. "We are glad to be slaves of the king." Then Joseph made a law that 1/5 of the harvest would always belong to the king. Only the priests did not lose their land.
The people of Israel made their home in the land of Goshen, where they became prosperous and had large families. Jacob himself lived there for 17 years before dying at the age of 147. When Jacob knew he did not have long to live, he called in Joseph and said, "If you really love me, you must make a solemn promise not to bury me in Egypt. Instead, bury me in the place where my ancestors are buried."
"I will do what you have asked," Joseph answered.
"Will you give me your word?" Jacob asked.
"Yes, I will," Joseph promised. After this, Jacob bowed down and prayed at the head of his bed.
Chapter 48. Joseph was told that his father Jacob had become very sick. So Joseph went to see him and took along his 2 sons, Manasseh and Ephraim. When Joseph arrived, someone told Jacob, "Your son Joseph has come to see you." Jacob sat up in bed, but it took almost all his strength.
Jacob told Joseph, God all-powerful appeared to me at Luz in the land of Canaan, where he gave me his blessing and promised, I will give you a large family with many descendants that will grow into a nation, and I am giving you this land that will belong to you and your family forever.
Then Jacob went on to say, Joseph, your two sons, Ephraim and Manasseh, were born in Egypt, but I accept them as my own, just as Reuben and Simeon are mine. Any children you have later will be considered yours, but the inheritance will come from Ephraim and Manasseh. Unfortunately, your mother Rachel died in Canaan after we had left northern Syria and before we reached Bethlehem, and I had to bury her along the way.
Jacob was very old and almost blind. He did not recognize the two boys, and so he asked Jacob, Who are these boys?
Joseph answered, They are my sons. God has given them to me here in Egypt.
Bring them to me, Jacob said. I want to give them my blessing. Joseph brought the boys to him, and he hugged and kissed them.
Jacob turned to Joseph and told him, For many years I thought you were dead, and I would never see you again. But now God has even let me live to see your children. Then Joseph made his sons move away from Jacob's knees, and Joseph bowed down in front of him with his face to the ground.
After Joseph got up, he brought his two sons over to Jacob again. He led his younger son Ephraim to the left side of Jacob, and his older son Manasseh to the right. But before Jacob gave them his blessing, he crossed his arms, putting his right hand on the head of Ephraim and his left hand on the head of Manasseh. Then he gave Joseph his blessing and said,
My grandfather Abraham and my father Isaac worshipped the Lord God. He has been with me all my life, and his angel has kept me safe. Now I pray that he will bless these boys, and that my name and the names of Abraham and Isaac will live on because of them. I ask God to give them many children and many descendants as well.
Joseph did not like it when he saw his father place his right hand on the head of the younger son. So he tried to move his father's right hand from Ephraim's head and placed it on Manasseh. Joseph said, Father, you've made a mistake. This is the older boy. Put your right hand on him.
But his father said, Son, I know what I'm doing. It's true that Manasseh's family will someday become a great nation, but Ephraim will be even greater than Manasseh, because his descendants will become many great nations.
Jacob told him that in the future, the people of Israel would ask God's blessings on one another by saying, I pray for God to bless you as much as he blessed Ephraim and Manasseh. Jacob put Ephraim's name first to show that he will be greater than Manasseh. After that, Jacob said, Joseph, you can see that I won't live much longer, but God will be with you and will lead you back to the land he promised our family long ago. Meanwhile, I'm giving you the hillside I captured from the Amorites.
Chapter 49. Jacob called his sons together and said, My sons, I am Jacob, your father Israel. Come, gather around as I tell your future.
Reuben, you are my oldest, born at the peak of my powers. You were an honored leader, uncontrollable as a flood. You slept with my wife and disgraced my bed, and so you no longer deserve the place of honor.
Simeon and Levi, you are brothers, each a gruesome sword. I never want to take part in your plans or deed. You slaughtered people in your anger, and you crippled cattle for no reason. Now, I place a curse on you because of your fierce anger. Your descendants will be scattered among the tribes of Israel.
Judah, you will be praised by your brothers. They will bow down to you as you defeat your enemies. My son, you are a lion, ready to eat your victim. You are terribly fierce. No one will bother you. You will have power and rule until nations obey you and come bringing gifts. You will tie your donkey to a choice grapevine and wash your clothes in wine from those grapes. Your eyes are darker than wine, your teeth whiter than milk.
Zebulun, you will settle along the seashore and provide safe harbors as far north as Sidon.
Issachar, you are a strong donkey, resting in the meadows. You found them so pleasant that you worked too hard and became a slave.
Dan, you are the tribe that will bring justice to Israel. You are a snake that bites the heel of a horse, making its rider fall.
Our Lord, I'm waiting for you to save us.
Gad, you will be attacked and then attack your attackers.
Asher, you will eat food, fancy enough for a king.
Naphtali, you're a wild deer with lovely fawns.
Joseph, you are a fruitful vine growing near a stream and climbing a wall. Enemies attacked with arrows, refusing to show mercy. But you stood your ground, swiftly shooting back with the help of Jacob's God, the all-powerful one. His name is the Shepherd, Israel's mighty rock. Your help came from the God your father worshipped, from God all-powerful. God will bless you with rain and streams from the earth. He will bless you with many descendants. My son, the blessings I give are better than the promise of ancient mountains or eternal hills. Joseph, I pray these blessings will come to you because you are the leader of your brothers.
Benjamin, you are a fierce wolf, destroying your enemies morning and evening.
These are the 12 tribes of Israel, and this is how Jacob gave each of them their proper blessings.
Jacob told his sons, "Soon I will die, and I want you to bury me in Machpelah cave." Abraham bought this cave as a burial place from Ephron the Hittite, and it is near the town of Mamre in Canaan. Abraham and Sarah are buried there, so are Isaac and Rebekah. I buried Leah there too. Both the cave and the land that goes with it were bought from the Hittites.
When Jacob had finished giving these instructions to his sons, he lay down on his bed and died. Chapter 50. Joseph started crying, then leaned over to hug and kiss his father.
Joseph gave orders for Jacob's body to be embalmed, and it took the usual 40 days.
The Egyptians mourned 70 days for Jacob. When the time of mourning was over, Joseph said to the Egyptian leaders, "If you consider me your friend, please speak to the king for me. Just before my father died, he made me promise to bury him in his burial cave in Canaan. If the king will give me permission to go, I will come back here."
The king answered, "Go to Canaan and keep your promise to your father."
When Joseph left Goshen with his brothers, his relatives, and his father's relatives to bury Jacob, many of the king's highest officials and even his military chariots and cavalry went along. The Israelites left behind only their children, their cattle, and their sheep and goats.
After crossing the Jordan River, Joseph stopped at Atad's threshing place, where they all mourned and wept 7 days for Jacob. The Canaanites saw this and said, "The Egyptians are in great sorrow." Then they named the place Egypt in sorrow.
So Jacob's sons did just as their father had instructed. They took him to Mamre in Canaan and buried him in Machpelah cave, the burial place Abraham had bought from Ephron the Hittite.
After the funeral, Joseph, his brothers, and everyone else returned to Egypt.
After Jacob died, Joseph's brothers said to each other, "What if Joseph still hates us and wants to get even with us for all the cruel things we did to him?"
So they sent this message to Joseph. "Before our father died, he told us, 'You did some cruel and terrible things to Joseph, but you must ask him to forgive you.'
Now we ask you to please forgive the terrible things we did. After all, we serve the same God that your father worshipped."
When Joseph heard this, he started crying.
Right then, Joseph's brothers came and bowed to the ground in front of him and said, "We are your slaves."
But Joseph told them, "Don't be afraid. I have no right to change what God has decided. You tried to harm me, but God made it turn out for the best so that He could save all these people as He is now doing. Don't be afraid. I will take care of you and your children. After Joseph said this, his brothers felt much better.
Joseph lived in Egypt with his brothers until he died at the age of 110. Joseph lived long enough to see Ephraim's children and grandchildren. He also lived to see the children of Manasseh's son mature, and he welcomed them into his family. Before Joseph died, he told his brothers, I won't live much longer, but God will take care of you and lead you out of Egypt to the land he promised Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Now promise me that you will take my body with you when God leads you to that land.
So Joseph died in Egypt at the age of 110. His body was embalmed and put in a coffin. This is the word of the Lord.
Thanks be to God. So to give a recap on Genesis 47 to 49 to 50 that we've read, in chapter 47, that's where Joseph settled his father, his brothers, and all the relatives in the fertile land of Goshen with the blessing of Pharaoh. We also read how he managed the famine as it became more severe, acquiring all the land in Egypt to Pharaoh. In chapter 48, we were told Jacob adopted Joseph's two sons as his own and he blessed them. That was where he placed his right hand on the younger to prophesy that he would be greater than his older brother. And then in chapter 49 was about Jacob's deathbed prophecies to the children concerning their future destinies. And finally in chapter 50, after the death of Jacob, Joseph gave a reassurance for his brothers that God intended their evil against him and turned it around for good to save many lives. And we're also told that Joseph died at the age of 110. So that's a quick recap of the 4 chapters.
In chapter 47, what stood out to me is that Joseph anticipated Pharaoh's response. Hence why I told them in chapter 46 to tell Pharaoh that they were just shepherds. So I got that aha moment. Like, okay, makes sense to be shrewd that way.
To me, it's the severity of the. I mean, I knew that the famine was severe, but I didn't know it was so severe that by the end of the famine, even the people that were proper Egyptian citizens, nobody had any land to themselves again. Nobody had any animals to themselves again, except for the priests. Like everything had to be traded in. And so Pharaoh literally became the owner of everything, literally, except for the priests that were still able to keep their lands.
Yes, quite interesting.
Chapter 48?
Oh, and then in 48,
Yeah.
it struck me as quite curious on how that when Jacob was started to address Joseph's two sons, he swapped them around even before he blessed them. So from verse 5, he started to call them Ephraim and Manasseh, whereas it should have been Manasseh and Ephraim. And he said that repeatedly.
Yeah.
But then I got a bit curious, Kola, in verse 8 to 10, when he then asked Joseph, who are these boys? Maybe he was just referring to them like, oh, your sons, but didn't know who the boys before him was.
Yeah.
I see.
That's how I read it as well.
Yes.
Interesting.
And him crossing his hand over their heads to bless the youngest first before the oldest. I do get it because he explained. But I think coming from a lineage of how that has happened, how that the second becomes the first, so to say, it wasn't quite surprising.
Yeah. Chapter 49, I just kept trying to imagine the scene in my head, like what exactly did it look like, and the reactions of each of the sons when Jacob spoke about the destiny of their descendants. Especially beginning with, it didn't start well. beginning with Reuben, and hardly had he uttered 3 sentences when he started more or less cursing him. Just makes you think of consequences, because in some sense it's now a day of reckoning for each of the sons who are becoming tribe leaders, and he brought back some of the things they've done. Reuben's mistake of sleeping with his father's wife,
in chapter 35 verse 22,
and then Simeon and Levi's issue with anger when they dealt ruthlessly with the people of Shechem. So of all the blessings, which one did you like most?
I don't want to like.
I mean, okay, which one did you find fascinating? Maybe would be the word.
Fascinating. I'll start with, I'll answer your question, but I'll start with the fact that why wait though until you're dying to actually talk to your child about a misdeed they did years and years ago? Does that mean since Reuben slept with Bilhah, is it Bilhah?
Mm-hmm.
Since he slept with Bilhah, Jacob did not address it?
I wouldn't think so.
Or even if he had addressed it, but Reuben must have done what I'm trying to get to. Reuben must have done things that are right after then, isn't it?
Yeah, even in the story, we saw he kept trying to make up. He didn't even want Joseph to be sold in the first instance.
Does that not count for something, so that the blessings, it then gains something? I don't know. Maybe it's the culture for you to wait. You just keep scores with what your children they've done to you, and then on the day of reckoning, and when they're about to die, give it out to them. That's scary, though.
Yeah, it's a narrative we keep saying again and again, and I think in some sense it became a cultural thing if it wasn't already. Even David, many centuries later, when he will be close to death, also called Solomon and gave him some specific instructions like that, and part of that included such weird things like, oh, this guy abused me, make sure you deal with him. I'm like, okay, so why haven't you done that yourself? Why wait till you're passing over the mantle to your son to deal with the people that you should have dealt with that you did not deal with? I don't know, but yeah, quite an interesting thought.
And it's also surprising that when Jacob was talking to Reuben, it was as though he was talking to him directly, use first person, you are my oldest. But when he was talking, when he was blessing Simeon and Levi, it was as though he was talking in third person. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like you and you are brothers, as though they were not right there with him. Interesting, yeah. So what's the most fascinating for you?
I like the one for Asher. It says you eat the food that is fit for a king. Let me see how I put it here. You will eat food fancy enough for a king. I like that. It's just one verse, but loaded than the others.
And I like the recompense and God's blessing. On the first hand, you will be attacked. And then on the second hand, you will attack your attackers. End of.
Indeed.
Yeah.
That's a good one.
Yeah, he was very nuanced. And Naphtali, about him being a wild deer, but with lovely fawns. It's quite interesting. How can someone be wild but give birth to lovely? Yeah.
Interesting.
But on this occasion, we would see that Jacob's blessing or curse was to the children directly, and not what Noah did. You know when Noah cursed the first child? No. When he cursed the second one, he didn't curse him but cursed his son. He said Canaan will be cursed, be Canaan. But in this one, he directed.
But it's for their lineage too, though. What he's saying here,
I suppose
it didn't come clearly enough in the CEV, but the very first verse, it says, come gather around as I tell your future. Literally, it is as I tell what will happen to your lineage, to your descendants.
Makes sense. Even there's some, even here, it's descendants as well. Yeah. So, chapter 50.
Yeah. The classic verse to zoom in on in chapter 50 is always verse 20, in the context of God works all things together for good. And when we got to that verse as well, it resonated yet again. It says, you try to harm me, but God made it turn out for the best, so that He could save all these people as He is now doing. But I find it striking that it seemed like Joseph died before many of his brothers, because it was to his brothers that he gave the instruction about what should happen to his bones. And yeah, that when God eventually honors His promise concerning what He has promised Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, ensure that you take me back to that land as well. So yeah, quite interesting.
Quite. I think what stood out to me in chapter 50 is how that Joseph might not actually be might not be the highest ranking official in Egypt as I thought.
Okay.
Because
what made you think that?
In verse 3 to 5, he went to the Egyptian leaders to ask them to speak to the king for him. When the king would bless him, I can't remember the chapter we read it, he said Joseph would be the highest order than him. So if Joseph in chapter 50, verse 3 to 5 is asking some Egyptian leaders to speak to the king for him for permission to go to Canaan to bury his father, isn't that a bit curious? Maybe there's been a change of position, do you think?
It's possible. It's been a long time. 110 from age 30. That's a long time. Power should have changed hands in different ways. Might have changed hands in different ways.
So it's possible that the reason Joseph went through intermediaries, according to this Nichols commentary, is because he had just been in direct contact with his father's dead body. And he doesn't want to go to Pharaoh that way, and that's why he spoke to those people.
Sure, that would be a good explanation. I would go with that. So thanks for joining us for day 16. As we come to the conclusion of our first of many books. On day 17, we continue the story, flip the page, and get into the next chapter. But till then, just remember, you're not alone.
Today.
God bless you.